Thank you very much, Chairman Zhang. Next up. Thank you very much, Chairman Zhang. Next up, we have Tony Tang, the Chief Analyst Officer for Pengyuan International, who is responsible for the overall rating operations, research, and compliance of the business. Now, prior to joining Pengyuan, Tony was the head of ratings for Dagong International. And before that, Tony was the lead analyst at S&P Global Ratings in Hong Kong. He had led a team of analysts to oversee the creditworthiness of Chinese corporates in certain industries. Tony.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, a lot of familiar faces. Thanks for coming to Pengyuan's first international credit conference. I hope you enjoyed the coffee and snacks this morning provided by Four Seasons. And I want to thank you to take the time off your busy schedule. And I hope today's conference will mark the beginning of our relationship and our presence in Hong Kong. Without further ado, I will start my presentation now. So I have been asked many questions in the past, some tough questions. And as a newcomer to this market, people always say, who are you? And why you're here? And why should I listen to you? And what do you offer? These are all valid, tough questions. And I probably will ask the same questions if I see a new institution come to this market. So I will answer these questions face-to-face today in this conference, and hope after this presentation, you will know us better, and we'll know you better too. So who we are? We are a Chinese rating agency in China, period. And we have deep roots in China, and we have practiced in China over 25 years. And we are a voice you want to hear when you assess the credit risk of China and the China credits. We are also a partner, and we want to be a partner to provide you the insightful information when you want to analyze China, and we want to bridge the information asymmetry across the border, onshore and offshore. Of course, under the current development of the Bank Connect, it's a very hot topic right now nowadays, and we can help global investors to make smarter decisions when they invest in China. And at the same time, we also can help Chinese investors to understand global markets better when they decide to go outside China. So in a nutshell, who we are your partner. We are your resource in China. You want to use us, you want to hear from us, and we can provide insightful information. There are other questions, I often hear from people, investors and market participants. Yeah, now we know who you are, and what can you offer? Why should I listen to you? So this is a slide that will show you what do we offer. We offer four things here. We offer data, we offer technology, we offer knowledge on China. We also offer a perspective, a fresh perspective when you come to assess the Chinese credits. On this chart, you can see our practice over the 25 years practice in China. We have accumulated tremendous data on the Chinese companies, and also we have a fiscal data coverage on 30 provinces and more than close to 300, 280 prefecture level cities, and we also have more than 500 county level of fiscal data. Of course, as of today, we have about close to 1,400 issuer credit rating active outstanding in the market. Out of this 1,400, close to 900 are LGFV ratings. So we are definitely the number one in this segment, and I know this is a hot topic nowadays in the market. If you want to know more about this segment, you definitely should talk to us. And then later on, we have our sovereign analysts will talk about this in more details. And also on the right side of the chart, you can see, we also have access to our parent level, which is CICI. They have a huge database too, aggregated more than 50,000 companies' financials in their system. They also have more than 200,000 financial products information in the database. Of course, 30 million plus the SME data. So not only data we offer, we also offer knowledge on China and perspective. We have a very experienced analytical team, both onshore and offshore, and we have a coverage all over the country and follow up on the China credits on a daily basis. And we also use a called crawler technology to help us improve our reading process. I'll spend a little bit of time on this, to explain what is crawler technology is. It's basically a search engine that will scan the cyberspace on Chinese cyberspace on daily basis. This engine will cross-check all the news and the piece informations and use the algorithm and the calculation engine to put the data together. For example, if one of the chairmen of the one rating entities, right, they have sold a certain asset somewhere, or he did some transaction somewhere, and then our search engine will pick it up and then use the algorithm to put in the data together to send out early warning system. Such early warning system will help the analyst and the committee to make a judgment call and help raise the red flag in the market. And so far we have been able to have hit 80 to 90% hit rates on the successful rates, and also have about 40 days ahead of the warnings. So we offer technology and credit analysis. We want to be a combination, not only credit rating agencies, with also technology content in it. And then how are we different? There's another question I'm being asked many times in the past too, and even nowadays. Yeah, I know what you offer. Why are you different? I would say we are different on all these four fronts I mentioned. We're different on data side, we're different on the knowledge, and we're different on perspective and technology. So first, we are a homegrown specialist on China. We understand China from all aspects: politics, policies, economics, finance, you name it. We also have the best mix of the local knowledge and the international expertise. When I say that, I mean it. Think a Chinese agencies who has the international team like we have together here. Think if the global agencies, they have the true local knowledge like we do. You should ask that questions yourself. We and our parent companies also investing heavily on the technology infrastructure, using the state-of-the-art technology to improve our rating process and also minimize human errors and discover the risk at a very early stage. As I mentioned before, we also have the data that not everyone has, not other Chinese agencies, particularly not other global agencies. Of course, our criteria and models are different. And our knowledge and our experience will enable us to create a criteria and models to better reflect the China's market reality and address a lot of uniqueness in this market. So this is, we're different. And I wrap it up. And who we are, what are we different? I would say, in a nutshell, we are your partner. We are your resources in China. And you should listen to us, and you want to use us. So that's who we are and what are we different. To wrap up this, I will move on to the next hot topic. And over the last years, I've been also asked by many people about, when they come to Chinese ratings, they don't understand it. They say, onshore ratings is great. We have so many thousand ratings, but I don't understand it because it's so high ratings, right? And then, you can name many examples. Why such a huge gap, onshore and offshore? I'll try to answer this question today. It's a very complicated question, and can also have a lot of technical aspects in it. It could drag along days and days discussion and debates. We never reach that, but today I will explain that in a simple way. So this chart will show you, this slide will show you, on the top part, the chart is the onshore rating that are assigned or outstanding right now in China. And you can see you have clustered all around a top 5 notches, which is from AAA to A+. You observe very little anything beyond that. On the other hand, the lower chart are the Chinese ratings assigned by the big 3 agencies. You can see that more spread out across the rating spectrum. How to understand the differences here? First I want to emphasize one. Put it this way: one is apple, the other is orange. Do not compare apple to orange directly. That simply means the two sets of rating symbols, they may look same, they may look very similar, people get confused, but they are very different fundamentally by nature. We call them the onshore ratings are national scale ratings, and offshore ratings are global scale ratings. So the national scale ratings are not intended to rank credits across regions and countries. They're supposed to rank credits and companies within a sovereign territory or regional territory that share the similar credit risks. On the other hand, GSR, which is global scale ratings, are designed by nature, by definition, supposed to be comparable across industries, regions, countries, and over time. So you can see, by definition, there are 2 very different things. I always see people in media and other people will quote, oh, when you do compare together, that's just not a right comparison. And then, also one thing I want to say, the perception of one set of ratings is better than the other. I would say now here is they are wrong and unfair. Why? One of the greatest German philosophers ever said, Hegel, right? He said, what is actual is rational, and what is rational is actual. So the Chinese onshore bond market has been in place for more than 20 years. There may be still a young bond market compared to other mature markets. They're still developing. There's a lot of market dynamics. This is not settled. So it's reasonable to have those ratings. They carry certain meanings. You just have to interpret those ratings with proper cause and with understanding of the rating, what that means. Just don't do simple comparisons. Be a smart investor. That's what I want to tell people here. We all know China's bond market are young markets, so we have not been able to observe enough default cases, and we didn't see any defaults until a few years ago, right? If you look at the agency's criteria and models, by regulatory requirements, all the criteria models need to be back tested by the historical default frequencies, and then by doing so, you can validate your criteria and models. Well, if a market that lack of the default cases, how can you backtest and validate your criteria and models, right? So it's a constraint for not only the Chinese rating agencies, and it's also a constraint for global agencies. So can you make a comment or statement say, oh, global state rating agencies, their criteria models are better than the onshore ones? I think you should think that again. I would say the rating bias, whether positive or negative, do exist cross border, right? Because it's simply is a market reality, as I mentioned, the lack of default cases. So I would not make a strong favor and a preference over one set of ratings over the other. You just need to be careful when you interpret all these ratings. Now, what other factors are driving the gap of the rating gap? Whether it's the onshore and offshore. I list a few. There are many other reasons. I list a few here. this is based on our observations. First, the criteria and models are very different. Onshore agencies look at different credit risks. Their ranking are purely domestic rankings. They don't do global comparisons that fit into exact that national scale rating definition. And also, the onshore ratings are very much historical facts based. A little and no projections built into the onshore ratings. That's just the practice and facts in onshore right now. Of course, that will probably evolve as the market develops. On the other hand, also there's truly no standardized definition of a national scale rating anyways, not by the global scale rating agencies, not by the Chinese agencies. So as I mentioned, this is market dynamic and reality nowadays. So this is basically summarize, what I want to say about rating gap onshore and offshore. I hope, you will walk away with understanding that there are very different things. I just don't want people to do a direct comparison anymore. That's just not a fair and the right comparison. And then now there's another question come after this. Well, since there's a huge rating gap between onshore and offshore, and how can I invest in China? Should I? How can I understand it, right? It is a difficult question, and it's a complicated issue too. Then we try to create some kind of linkage between onshore national scale ratings with the offshore global scale ratings. A fair question would be, can a mapping be created between onshore and offshore? I would say yes, given some time. Probably not now. It's very complicated. A lot of theoretical research and empirical research needs to be done, and probably even from an academic side too. But the question is, are onshore ratings actually relevant for you at this moment? The absolute level of the onshore ratings may be hard or not easily understood by the global investors who are so used to the offshore global scale ratings. But do they mean anything, or you can just toss them around? I would say the relative ranking of those ratings, instead of the actual symbols, do carry some information on Chinese credit risk. So you should pay attention to it. But I'm not endorsing the onshore ratings here. I just want people to exercise a smart decisions on interpreting the onshore ratings. So can the mapping be created? I would say, new criteria and models are definitely need to be created by agencies, whether it's onshore and offshore, whether it's Chinese agencies and global agencies. That's still from a Pengyuan perspective, we are doing this job, but of course it's going to take some time. And I always encourage every market participant to come to help solve this question. And one of the approach may help you to reveal some kind of a linkage relationship between onshore and offshore is through a bond market, a market implied rating, which is a treasury yield spread. Right, on one side, you can have say the Chinese onshore bonds, the treasury yields, like say AAA, yield spread AAA or AA minus. And you compare that yield spreads with a offshore rated bonds, whether it's dollar-based or euro-based. And from that mapping, you may reveal some relationship there. However, keep that in mind. The bond treasury yield are market-driven. They carry much more information than just credit risk. The rating is supposed to address the credit risk. So you have a market liquidity, the monetary policy, the market sentiments will all drive the yield spread. I'm not saying this is the approach people should take, but this probably could be the starting point for people understanding the linkage between onshore and offshore ratings. So, yeah, I talked about the onshore and offshore ratings, and then now Pengyuan comes to this market. We at Pengyuan International, we will be engaging in global scale ratings in Hong Kong and offshore markets. So here is the summary of our rating definitions and comparabilities. So what our Pengyuan's global scale rating means? We adopt a principles-based rating approach, which means our criteria and the models were built around that. Pengyuan's rating is a forward-looking analytical opinion on the creditworthiness of the issuer and obligations. We have three elements in our rating, the meaning. First, the creditworthiness, the first element is the likelihood of default. What that means, you have two things. The relative ranking of that likelihood of default along the rating spectrum. And secondly, is the absolute level of the likelihood of default also matters. That information will be part of our ratings. The second part elements is the obligation ranking. In other words, you can say payment priorities or projected recovery in case a issue default or an instrument default. What can investors expect for recovery? That's also the information will be built into our ratings. The last element will be the stability of the credit quality. We will not assign a rating is A or triple B if we see the credit quality will deteriorate substantially over the next year or two or three. So the credit quality is also the stability of the credit quality is also a very important consideration in our ratings. So that's the three fundamental elements in our rating definition. Of course, we also use the stress testing tools to help us calibrate our criteria models and to ensure to achieve the maximum comparability and consistency across different regions, different practice, and different industries. Okay, so that's pretty much what I want to share with you this morning, and I hope after this my section you will have a understanding about the onshore ratings and offshore rating differences. If you have more questions, I'm happy to talk to you, and our team here will be happy to talk to you after this. Then what can you expect from us after today's conference? We have already published a set of criteria and models, not models, the criteria on our website. On the top part, you can see that's I listed out. And we will also publish two reports. You probably saw that it's in your package. And in 2018, we'll do more. We want to send our voice to this market, and we want you to listen to us, and we want to talk to you too. So we will have continuous publication on the thematic research, and we will have more in-depth researches and publish global scale ratings. Of course, we want to reach out to investors more. So that will wrap up my presentation, and then I'll move on to more specific discussions into a more hot topics, and we will have our sovereign team, our FI team, our corporate team, and our structured finance team representatives and analysts to discuss some specific